Hello. I'm just pumping down the SCM right now, so it will be a minute or two. Be patient. Hey, Astro Canuck, how's it going? I see you're back in Canada. I caught a little bit of your stream. I think it must have been yesterday. Saw you in your Leafs jersey and all your Canada paraphernalia behind you. Are the telescopes set up now? Or are you still getting things set up? Oh, your telescopes are still crossing the Atlantic. Oh, that must be, I don't know, kind of traumatizing to have all your equipment out there. It's being crated, right? It's being shipped across on an actual boat. Is it too big? I don't know, if somebody had my camera equipment, I'd be like, yikes. Okay, well, at least it's professional. It's a good way to handle it, I guess. Ah, we already got it. Good. Haven't been in my lab for a week now, so hopefully everything still works. Looks like it does. I got some of these samples from Pacific Plankton, and some of them from one of my colleagues' graduate PhD students. I'm on their committee, and they just wanted me to check out some of their Stephanodiscus in here. And see what I thought they were. So, I've been good. I was home for visiting my family for the last week. Had a birthday, and got to hang out with them for a while. I hadn't seen them since like Christmas a year and a half ago because of COVID, but at least we're all on track now, or mostly on track. So that part's good. These are samples from Jackson Lake, a lake near Grand Tetons National Park, and the student who's analyzing these, his name is John. He took a diatom class with me as a remote student in the fall last year, and hopefully he's trained enough that he'll be able to analyze these samples. But he had something, he wasn't sure if it was Stephanodiscus or Cyclostephanos, and wanted me to take a peek at it. And I'm not sure if those are in this sample, or I think it's actually this sample 6 that had them in it. So take a look through these and see what we can find. and then I have some material. Hey Sam, how's it going? I have some material from Pacific Plankton as well. So how long does it take from the SCM to be ready for imaging once it's switched on? Let's see. At the start of the stream, I had just loaded the samples in, so I had to turn it in and vent it, and then put the samples in, and then pump down. On my SCM, that takes maybe 2 minutes. And then once the sample is pumped down, it takes me a little while to basically, get the image looking good. I have to tweak things. Still not happy with how this one looks quite yet, but it's looking better. So I'm going to, let's see. I think that's a Stephanodiscus. Let's do a little bit of work to try to get these images looking better. Not sure what it's got a weird hole in the middle of it. Oh, I think maybe that's a ring least. That's a Oligocera. No, it's kind of big. So yeah, once you have, I can get to the point where I have an image pretty quickly, like within a couple of minutes, but then there's usually this sort of calibrating and monkeying around with getting the quality of the image better, and that probably usually takes me, I don't know, well, you're gonna sit through it, I guess, so maybe 5 minutes or so. Can't take longer sometimes. First thing I usually do is this, which is trying to get the wobble in good condition. It seems like it's mostly there, so I don't think that's an issue. But I'm going to play around with it just a little to make sure. It seems like it's in a good place. It's a slate. Offset. Just be a little patient, and I'm going to work on, actually I think the next step I need to do probably could be done on an inside of a valve a little bit better than the outside of a valve. These are great for this. So that's a a valve-face photoportula, or what we sometimes refer to as a strutted process. It's on the inside of a diatom. And then these little guys right here, these little bumps are, these little white specks are cribra, and conditions are optimal with respect to this focus and the stigmation. And we slow the beam down. Those normally stand out as little sort of salt and pepper shaker heads. You can kind of start to see it there. It's telling me I need to adjust my gun heating, which is probably why we're not seeing it clearly. Is it all manual focus or automatic? The SCM has an option for autofocus, but the problem is it doesn't know what you want to focus on. So, you know, there's a lot of three-dimensional structure. Hey, Marmot. So it will get it kind of close if you do the autofocus, but really only like in bulk. Like it'll get it, like if you don't have any kind of focus, if everything's out of focus, it'll get it to the point where you can see things. And then after that, it's, you know, picking the thing you want to focus on and then doing it manually. So the first thing I did was make some adjustments to the wobble, and the second thing I did was make some adjustments to the stigmation. So just like putting glasses on a person that's got astigmatism, it basically puts glasses on the SCM using the magnets and rearranging it so that the beam is focused directly on the surface. And the better your stigmation is, the better your image is. So it's usually where a lot of my effort goes when I'm trying to get things in focus perfectly. Right now the instrument's telling me it needed to make some adjustments to the gun heating, which is the Electron gun in the top. And the reason it needs to do that is oftentimes when you start up the filament, you have to make some adjustments to get it, the electron cloud functioning appropriately. And so normally what I do is it's like whatever it did, it's taken the gun centering needs to be done. Can you see DNA? Not really, for a number of reasons. Anyway, so normally I do a gun heating to get the temperature of the filament to the right temperature, because if it's generating too many electrons, if it's too hot, basically, it's too bright, it's just wasting the filament, and if it's too low, then you're probably just not getting enough electrons. So the filament is basically just a piece of metal between two posts, and it runs electricity through it, but also heats it. And the heating is basically the sort of finer adjustment that it makes. And together, those two things basically get you sort of in an ideal setting for your combination of temperature and voltage. And so it's doing that, right? Well, it was doing that. Now it's doing automatic gun centering, which usually has to be done after the filament's been adjusted for heating. So to get to your question, Sam, there's a couple of reasons why you can't really see DNA with an SEM. Well, not with this one anyway. One, living material usually doesn't do very well, like organic material, in a vacuum. And so that's probably the bigger issue at stake, is that everything's taking place in a vacuum. But also DNA is a little bit smaller than you would typically be able to see easily on an instrument like this. So I'm now making some adjustments to the just the brightness, so we don't have this like extremely bright image. And next thing I'm going to work on is going back to see if the wobble got messed up by the sort of starting over the process that we just did. Which it looks fine. But the stigmation probably needs adjustment as well again. For some reason my image has been worse since it did its auto gun heating, so I feel like maybe it messed it up. I'm gonna try it again. Okay. So, how's everybody's 4th of July weekend been for people in the U.S.? I went out and did some photography last night, imaging the fireworks, and I got some really nice shots of the fireworks from here in Indiana. People love fireworks here, and they love setting off their own fireworks here. So I think there were fireworks going off until 1 or 2 in the morning. And probably if they didn't set them off, if they didn't get them all set off yesterday, they'll probably set off some more tonight. Which is pretty typical for our experience with respect to 4th of July weekends here. So we're mostly looking at diatoms in these samples. This is Lindavia intermedia. I think that's actually a chrysophyte right there, a really large one. And then chrysophyte stomatocyst. And then this one here is Asterionella Formosa, which is it's a colonial diatom. They make a star shape. That's where it gets its name, Asterionella. And they connect by this central, by this bigger head pole, which is actually a foot pole in this one, for some reason. And then they radiate out from that in a star shape, star pattern. And this is kind of nice because this is an external view of this diatom. This is the inside of it. This is the outside of it. And you can't see that sort of thing in the light microscope, but in the scanning electron microscope, it's pretty obvious. The outside doesn't have a lot of the same access to the processes that you would see in the internal view. And so everything in our field of view right now is about 50 microns. It's our field of view is like 56 microns, or a magnification of about 5,000 times. And if I zoomed in so that this diatom, this Lindavia intermedia, as I mentioned, is sort of in the center of our field of view, such that it's taking up the entire image. This is about 10,000 times magnification right there. And so you can see all kinds of detail you wouldn't normally be able to see. Also, you'll note down here there's a little bit of a white area around the valve, like in here where it's lighter and it's darker around here. It's because the electron beam is actually going all the way through the diatom skeleton right here, the cell wall. And you're seeing this thing behind it, which is a piece of silt. You're actually seeing through the diatom. It's lightly enough silicified, and the beam is set to a 30 kilovolt accelerator voltage, actually sort of seeing through the diatom a little bit, which is cool. Except for when you don't want to see through it, I guess. There's another, either a microsphere or a chrysophyte cyst, and here's a little tiny Staphylococcus. Probably belongs to rugosa or something like that. These little tiny slit-shaped openings, and then a spine at the end of every one of the costi. So I'm zooming out, obviously, right now. There's another internal view of Lindavia. This is a girdle view or side view of an Oligocyra. These are all different types of diatoms. And what I'm looking for, that's a girdle band. That's an internal view. Nope, that's a girdle band. There's nothing on the inside. It's probably one of these little guys. These little tiny stuffs. That is right here. And really we're just trying to see what kind of steps we have. That does not look like a that just looks like Staphylococcus to me. Manuculus / parvus. But we're looking for something that the student thought was potentially Cyclostephanos. So it's going to be one of these round guys. Probably in the range of this one. That's a Stephanodiscus. Pretty sure that's just a Stephanodiscus. Hey Pantene, how's it going? We're looking through some samples from Jackson Lake right now, and then I've got some additional sample material from Pacific Plankton that had sent me from San Francisco Bay. Let's see what we can do about, let's find an internal view of one of these big guys. I think it's a chrysophyte. There's a bunch of really big chrysophyte cysts in here. And those are 15 micron, pretty big. At least for what we usually see. This is just Stephanodiscus. It does not look like a Cyclostephanos to me. It's the same thing over here. I think everything we have on here is just a plain Stephanodiscus. This is Lindavia intermedia again. Just wanted to come in here and see if I can tweak my settings enough to see some of the structure a little better. These look pretty clean. So I'm just going to work on tweaking my stigmation just a little bit more. When you're in this close, you usually have to change the beam intensity too, because the beam becomes a little too wide. You can see how that improved the image quite a bit, especially in here. I'm going to let's see if I can get that image a little bit cleaner. And what I'm looking for is just some sharpness in here. And you should be able to start to see that salt and pepper shaker heads now. That's basically how I can usually gauge that the stigmation is in a good place. Now I can zoom back out. Once you have it set, then you don't usually need to monkey with it too much, so I just wanted to try to get it where I need it. It's no SEM last week, Prague. This week I do have the SEM. I'm back in the lab. I'm home from visiting family. So we do have some SEM again, which is nice. Nice for a little afternoon stream. And then I also spent the day in the lab earlier prepping some materials from the pond at my mom's house. So we should have some slides today or tomorrow from that as well. And then possibly Wednesday or sometime this week I may do a little SEM stream of the materials from my mom's and her neighbor's ponds. I need to first see them in the light microscope and sort of see how they look. It's a cool diatom. This is Lindavia ocellata. It's characterized by having these elevations. So there's like depressions here, three depressions and 3 elevations that are next to them. And it's nice and it's mostly clean. There's a little bit of clay up here, but the surface is mostly clean. So just thought I would stop and try to make sure that everything's looking good in the actual picture taking process. But it's characterized by those depressions. There may be as many as 6 or 7 or 8 in some of them. And then this is pretty characteristic of the stria. Usually they're multiseriate. So this is in rows of 3 basically through most of it. These little dots that are all over the surface are called granules. And then these are the external expression of the strutted processes that we were seeing when we saw the inside of the valve. And somewhere there should be a external expression of the remoportula as well. It'll be on a costi like this that's thickened typically, and maybe somewhere in here or a little closer towards the center. Could potentially be that, but I don't think so. That looks good. That looks good. I think the image is going to be okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and collect that. Oh, Acellus, thank you for the raid. I peeked in on your stream a little bit earlier. Coach Shipley also, hello. You wish you understood even a quarter of this. Ask questions. I would be happy to answer them. Rams Reef also raided. I got 2 raids. And I was busy chatting and missed both of them. Let's see. I should give a shout out to Rams Reef. And also, Astro Canuck was in here earlier. May still be here. You should check them out. And Acellus, yeah, I just peeked in on your backyard bird stream. I didn't see any birds, but it was slightly before I started getting stuff ready for the SEM. If you haven't seen Acellus, yeah, it was raining. Yeah, totally. Sometimes when it's raining, I get more birds in my feeders. But Acellus streams from Scotland, I think it is, from their backyard, often birds. I've also seen them do some VR streams where they used the Oculus to chop up little squares to music, and actually my daughter wants one of those, so we just bought it, an Oculus. Hasn't arrived yet, but I played that game that you play all the time on there, and I thought it was kind of fun. So I don't know that I'll do a stream from it, but you know, it looked like a pretty cool system. Yeah, very cool. So right now we're just looking at some material from Jackson Lake, which is near the Grand Tetons. And this isn't what the student asked me to look at. They sent me some stuff and said, could I check to make sure that what they were seeing was Stephanodiscus, or whether it was Stephanodiscus or Cyclostephanus dubius. And I've only seen Stephanodiscus so far, so I think maybe what they were seeing was a Steph. I'm going to take these slides and also make some, these samples, and also make some light microscope samples from them, so I can check them out in the light microscope and take some pictures and make sure that I'm seeing what they thought I was seeing, or what I should see. These are Jackson Lake. Sorry, I need to put these somewhere good. Is Lindavia Ocellata external. Last week I was in Ohio for the whole week visiting my family, and so I only streamed some bird stuff and a little bit of photography. We did some night photography with my sister, and I think we had, oh no, I think there was a storm, but I didn't stream it, I just imaged it. We never really did get any streams to storms that I could stream, so this is just a little Steph as well. So the difference between Stephanodiscus and Cyclostephanus is they typically have sort of a chamber around the outside, and also the costi, which are a little bit more visible typically in Cyclostephanus, run all the way to the edge, but I don't even see costi on this one. So I think it's just a plain old Steph. You can at least image it. It's pretty flat, so I'm not sure about the species. Night animals or night stars. Yeah, we have some pretty impressive storms here, and I had some really great lightning from my mom's house that I got imaged of. The night photography we were doing, we were just looking at stars with my sister. So she did a sort of a long exposure star trails thing, and was talking about how you could do that. And I was just collecting images of stars over my mom's house, and trying to get the best Milky Way images I could get, which weren't great, to be honest, relative to things you can typically see in the western U.S. But pretty nice for just a camera stream and doing some night photography. And then I think I did a couple of bird streams with my mom's birds, which are different than the ones that we have here. She gets orioles on her feeder, and blackbirds, which I don't get here, and we saw a red-eyed vireo. Wasn't really on the feeder, but it was next to it. She gets a lot of different birds than I got, so. But, nice, calm, very chill. Oh, you're an astronomer. Oh, I didn't know that. I guess I've seen you stream some stuff from a telescope before. I'm not an astronomer, so. But I think we were hoping to get some Andromeda photos, but it was below the horizon, and I didn't have my star trekking base on at all. So, but if we could have found something cool, I probably would have. Anyway. Not really seeing the Cyclostephanos at all yet. It's just an internal view of a little stuff. Also, it's sort of charged up a little bit, which is weird. And I think that one that we were looking at, that was the internal view, and I think this is its external view. Whatever this is, I think it's rugosa maybe, or something kind of related to it. But I think this is probably the external view of that diatom. Basically looking the wrong way through a telescope at small things. Yes. I like to take anything small and make it big. So if I have to use a telescope to make small stars look big, which, I mean, they're much bigger, obviously, in reality, I will. Or my camera to do the same thing. Or I look at really small things in a microscope. Or I do like macro photography. Anything that appears small, whether it's actually small or not, I kind of like to image. The invisible, basically, or the barely visible. So. Oftentimes, though, it's very alien landscape that we look into in lakes and ponds and streams and anything else that's tiny. In the evenings, often I'll look at stuff in the light microscope, and living organisms are a little bit more common as my focus. People are typically a lot more interested in seeing stuff wiggle around than getting into the details of sort of things we can see in the scanning electron microscope. But I'm doing this anyway, so I figure I might as well stream it. Everybody's gone here today. There's nobody in the lab except for me, and then I don't think there's anybody in the university except for me. I've seen my wife came in for a little bit to join me in the lab, and I've not seen another single person or vehicle other than somebody running around the outside of campus when I came in, because it's the Monday after the 4th of July here, yeah, and so there's 0 people around, which is honestly the way I like campus the best. It's quiet, I can get work done, and I like the students in my lab, don't get me wrong, but I also like just being able to work in peace in my lab and get a bunch of things done. So I prepped a whole bunch of samples for the SEM and for the light microscope today. And so that's working out. External. Anyhow, not seeing a lot of what they wanted me to see. So far, anyway. Everything in here is a Steph or a Lindavia or an Alicocera, in my opinion. That's a Lindavia, that's a Stephanodiscus, Alicocera. Alright. Why don't we... I'll image this just in case this is the thing they think is dubious. I honestly think that's just a Minuculus, though. And then we'll jump over and look at some of the stuff that we got from... I like the students in the lab, but it's better when they're not here. I get more work done when they're not here. Yeah. Pantene, I liked working in the evening, night at campus. I wouldn't mind working at night, except for... I've got a daughter, and she's 7, and I don't get to see her much if I work during the day. And if I'm there all night, basically, I would miss my family. So, I suppose I could come in late at night and then just work during the day. The problem with that is my students also need me to be around to answer questions and to help them with things. And so, you know, I can't spend the whole day in the lab. So, but it wouldn't be terrible to do the reverse occasionally, where I'm not around during the day, but I come in the evenings. Just because I like to be able to work in peace. So, when I was a PhD student, I would get my lab work done from... I'd work best from sort of 11 o'clock until in the morning until about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And so I was really productive in that little window. And then after 3, I would just sort of get burned out being on the microscope or doing lab work. And so then I would just kind of relax or do other things or hang out, you know, with friends or whatever until about 11 o'clock at night. And then from 11 o'clock at night until about 3 in the morning, again, I was super productive. So I would spend that time doing my homework and writing papers and working on publications or research or whatever. And so I would do like a 11 to 3 and 11 to 3, like twice a day. I would be really productive. And then I would just, you know, sleep between them and whatever else. But I found like I worked best when I was sort of in that zone between 11 and 3, whether it was in the morning or the evening. But one of the things I really like about my job is that, especially in the summer when I'm not in class, really I have the capacity to kind of just work whenever I need to. So it's very flexible. And even during the semester, sometimes it's pretty flexible. So, okay. I don't think that's a Cyclostephanos at all. I think it's a Steph. So, but I'm going to send some pictures back to John and see what he thinks, and see if that was the thing he was looking at, or whether he had something else in mind. Let's take a look at some of the material that Pacific Plankton sent me. So this is some material that's, I think this is the unprocessed version of some samples that she sent me from San Francisco Bay. She'll be disappointed she wasn't here to see it. Oh wait, maybe this is Mountain Lake. This doesn't look like San Francisco Bay. Oh wait, take it back. That's definitely San Francisco Bay. It's definitely a marine diatom. Yeah, so I think this is some of the living material from San Francisco Bay. There's a bunch of them. Marine stuff. There's a Tintenid. That sorts it. This is the skeleton of a Tintenid. They have these sort of light ball shaped skeletons, and the organism kind of lives inside of there. They make their homes out of material that they find, they kind of glue it together, and in the unprocessed samples we can find them. Sometimes they've got bits and pieces of diatoms stuck in there. So that's sort of one of the reasons. There's another one. So there's one, that's a diatom. There's another one right there. Why sometimes I'll prep these samples and then not process them. We just rinse them to get the salts out of them, basically, so that we can see things that basically would fall apart if we put it into nitric acid. And so it gives us a different sort of view of the materials that are there and what kind of organisms are there in it. See, there's a lot of junk in this sample as well. This is a Arachnodiscus, one that we commonly see in these San Francisco Bay samples. I think this is a Glaciocera. Oh, no, also Arachnodiscus. You can see there's something that was living back here behind it. So the live samples for these are kind of nice because they allow us to see diatoms living in colonies, like this one, and also lightly silicified things, or things that would dissolve very easily. So this is an example. You can kind of see this was connected to that at one point. You can sort of see the colony right here, and it continues all the way up through there. So you can see this was like a piece of a long colony of diatoms, just one aspect of it. But also there's a bunch of Tintenids. There's one. That's a piece of poop. That's something fish or some other copepod or something has eaten and pooped it out. There's a Glaciocera. You can see this one big Rimoportula with a tube sticking off of it, which is typical for Glaciocera. There's some advantages and disadvantages, though. The disadvantage would be that the organic matter can sometimes create problems for us to see things in the skeleton, and so sometimes it's a good idea to have a little bit of both. And there's a giant isthmia that looks gorgeous, actually. Like the little emote that we have. On the surface of these, sometimes in these pores, and they're perfectly in focus. I think the pores on these things measured something like 2 microns across. This diatom is really huge. And yeah, so there's a pore. One of the pores on these things are basically in some cases 4 microns, 3 to 4 microns across. And there's some diatoms that, you know, that's their total size. Their total size is like 3 to 4 microns. So, just to give you a sense of how big these things are relative to everything else on the screen, sort of a mothership diatom. The field of view right there is 394 microns. So that thing's almost 400 microns across. Like almost a half of a millimeter, such that you could see it probably pretty easily in a sample. Wouldn't be able to pick it up still. Here's a Tintenid, and that's a piece of it. That's a diatom frustule. A bit of diatom that it's welded into its, or glued into its skeleton. There's an Arachnodiscus, and I think part of the reason that Pacific Plankton sent me these samples is because we were looking to see if we could find some Arachnodiscus in the SEM, and I think the sample actually had kind of a lot of Arachnodiscus in it. So hopefully one of those with a little bit of a clearer view is going to be available on one of the other slides or stubs that I made. You can see all of the sort of magical little pores. Those are rim portula between each of them. I'm going to jump this up to 10, and then Placicera. In the light microscope versions of these that I was looking around in, I saw some really cool big colonies as well. Not really seeing those here. That could be in part because of the amount of other material on the slide. Ooh. Big charge. That thing's up off of the surface. I think those are Ellerbeckia stacks. Goliatom, yeah, it's huge. In a single cell as well. We talk about this pretty regularly on Pacific Plankton Stream, how you can have something that's 300, almost 400 microns across, and it's a single cell, and then, you know, swimming next to it something smaller that's a multicellular organism. That's kind of a neat aspect of looking at things that are this tiny, is that some of these things are monstrous but just one cell, and some of these things are tiny but multicellular. So I'm always hoping when I go through these samples that I find some dinoflagellates where you could see the plates very easily, but we almost never see them. And I think it's because they just degrade pretty rapidly, or you can see this Tintenids everywhere. Or they're here and they just shrivel up when they get in a vacuum. Like structurally, they're not stable enough to actually image without making some adjustments to them. I'm not sure which it is. It could just also be they're rare, or get clumped up when we start looking at them in the SEM. My colleague, Dr. Winter, will sometimes put them samples that have been filtered through filter paper on the SEM, and they'll see a bunch of really beautiful dinoflagellates that way. So could be there's just a lot of junk around them that needs to be pulled off. Seeing a lot of Tintenids though in these samples. Alright, let's jump over and look at some of the processed material from the same sample. I think this is processed. Maybe I have a couple live samples, maybe it's another living one. Still some Tintenids together. Oh, there's an Arachnodiscus right there. Sometimes they're a lot bigger than this, but it's a diatom, like a Colosseum. It has that name Arachnodiscus because the costi, which are these sort of heavier, brighter lines you see right here, have sort of a radiating structure and then like things that go across them to make them kind of look like a spider web. And so people thought that they looked kind of like a spider web, and that's what gets the name arachno, like a spider. We've been looking for them in the SEM for a long time now because we'd see them very rarely in the light microscope samples when Pacific Plankton would send them to me, or she'd see them in her light microscope samples while they were still alive, and then we just never really managed to get more than just a piece of one in the SEM before now. So this is nice. An ostrich egg is one cell too. Is that true? I mean, it starts off as one cell, but I think it's very rapidly divides. So probably not by the time you see it, it's not. But I'm not an expert in ostrich eggs, so. I guess don't quote me on that. Oh, Acellus rated us, and then he went back into streaming again. I guess he was just resetting. He did clip it. Yeah, right. I'd have to Google it, I'm afraid. I don't know the answer. It's a pretty quiet Twitch day. I'm assuming everybody's outside enjoying the weather here in the US. You forgot to stop. Okay. You're still streaming. Just for one person. Okay. I'm not critiquing. If you wanted to go back to streaming, you can. Let's see if we can find one that's not in the shadow of another giant piece of junk. But at least we know what we're looking for now, right? Got this sort of wheel in the center, and then these sort of spoke-shaped structures. Really like to see the internal view of one as well. I think Pacific would probably enjoy it. She's probably going to be mad that we found one and she wasn't here. These are... Francisco Bay. These are from June 15. And that is Arachnodiscus external. The structure of something. Not sure what that was. Oh, here's one. Right here. There's an internal view of one of them. It's not particularly clean. Got a lot of junk on it. But that is the internal view of that thing we just saw from the outside. So again, it has sort of a wagon wheel in the center. It has these spokes coming out from the middle. And just for scale, the diatoms that we were looking at last time on the Jackson Lake, like earlier on the other stub, they were usually ranging from somewhere around 5 to 30, maybe 40 microns. So this one's 160 across. So marine stuff is really big compared to freshwater stuff, pretty commonly. And then all the stuff that's trapped in here is probably clay or organic matter that didn't degrade when we processed it. More likely it's probably clay. It's probably detrital clay. Looks good. Hopefully it stays that way through the whole picture. I'm continuously awestruck by the beauty and structure of diatoms. Yeah. You're rather nonchalant about them, though. Is it because you've been exposed to so many? No, that's my... I am actually awestruck by them all the time. That's my awestruck voice. Really, honestly. I've never seen this particular diatom in the scanning electron microscope before. Hey, mind of a snail. How you doing? Snail. I mean, honestly, they're always amazing to me. I just, I'm pretty laid back, I guess. My response is usually pretty laid back about everything. Out of habit. But, no. I'm nonchalant only in the sense that, I guess I'm always excited by what I'm finding. I could do this for literally an entire day and still be like, cool. All the way through. I never get tired of looking at diatoms. So, I'm sort of a stoic personality, generally speaking. Usually the best you get out of me is like a whoa. Cool as a cucumber. Hello, Bill Nash. How are you doing? Somewhere. Ah? I told you I'd do it eventually. You survived the weekend intact. It's still the weekend, technically. Right now. So, Evo! Did I make one for you? No, I'll fix that. I'll fix it. How are you doing, Evo Lazi? I feel like my entire audience when I stream is just other streamers. I don't know if that's normal. I'm the streamer. This is Arachnodiscus internal. I get like occasionally somebody who's not a streamer who shows up in my channel to see what I'm up to. Right now we're looking at some material that Pacific Plankton sent me, and not surprisingly it's from the Pacific and it's plankton. These monster diatoms are filled with holes as usual. That one's kind of cool. You can see all the little tiny circles are filled with a bunch of other little circles, so and we're just kind of rolling around in the sample looking for fun stuff. That's an isthmia, that's Arachnodiscus, I think. That's a broken piece of a Thalassocyra, I think. It's a lot of the usual suspects from Pacific Plankton streams, as you might expect. But that Arachnodiscus is kind of cool. I haven't seen one of those before. And I'm looking for an even better one, so we'll see how that goes. Not sure what that is. It's a giant diatom. think it's Arachnodiscus again. Based on the size of this one, I think it's the one that we put the mustache on for Mustachio. I think it's Arachnodiscus Walesii. Or Walesii, something like that. Also don't know what this weird little guy is. I think it's a Arachnodiscus. If it's in the marine realm and I don't know what it is, it usually ends up being Blasticira. But there's a Isthmia. There's some Actinopticus. Tintenids still together despite being processed. Arachnodiscus. Big Diatom, pointed right at us. Not sure. Could be Arachnodiscus. It's really big. But there's a glare on it because it's pointed right at the detector. And unfortunately, I don't have any way of stopping a glare. Oh, it's a foram. That's what that other one was, too. That's a foram. A little foraminifera. You can see, here's his belly button, and then it coils outward like this. Kind of like a snail. For mind of a snail. But it's fractured so you can see into the actual valve. We saw another one that was just like the centerpiece of that. I just couldn't tell what it was without any context, but now I know. A lot of times that's what I have to do, is kind of go look around on the slide if I find a fragment of something and try to figure out what it was or what it is. Tintenid. Poop. Streamers of a feather flock together. Gotta pull on your adult pants. That's why I'm here, right? How does she send you the samples? Is it just some drops in the mail? She sends it. I sent her some centrifuge tubes, and she usually puts them in those, but it could be in any container, really, that's waterproof. And then she just packs them so they don't get destroyed in transport. So wrap them carefully, basically. It's pretty easy. Sometimes it's mud samples. Or whatever, but I will process them here. That's what I usually do. So for these marine samples, we usually rinse them, get out the salts, and then process them in nitric acid. You know what? Something... There's a little Ketosterus chain. I saw some Basilaria, I thought, in the in the live material that I looked at in the light microscope earlier. Maybe I should try to see if we can find some of that. We're always so zoomed out looking at the really large stuff because there's so much of it. Let's see what's on 3. Look how the difference between those two samples. Those must have been the live ones. And these ones are processed. You can see how it gets rid of all those like lumps of things, and now it's just diatoms everywhere. The whole slide just basically diatoms. Got rid of all the poop, basically, which is what the processing did. And now we just see like a pile of round things. There's also some non-round things in here that I keep seeing, and I'm going to focus on one of them if I can find it separated from the rest of this material. I was also seeing some Campylodiscus when I was looking through those samples, so I'm kind of looking around to see if I can find some. Oh, there's an Arachnodiscus. Almost perfect. I just had a little piece of junk on it. That's a good one. Okay, get this in focus for us. Ooh, that's pretty. We can come take a look at the internal structure inside the... Oh yeah, that's really cool. Inside these little pores, there's these really intricate structures all over the place. Super neat. Do just one like this, so we can see the internal structure really clearly. That's a coffee table photo for you for the books. It's going to look good, colorized. I'll do one like this and then I'll zoom out. Let's see. Let's lower the beam intensity just a little. It'll make this image a bit darker, but it'll pick up just a little bit more detail. Do you age ancient diatom samples from the diatoms themselves or from the surrounding material? The surrounding material, Sam. You can't use... Well, let me rephrase that. Usually the surrounding material. Typically you can't determine the age of something from the diatoms. Like, we can't date the diatom material, but in some parts of the world where diatoms are evolving, you can actually get into looking at the biostratigraphy. Mostly it's in the marine realm. They don't really have that for freshwater stuff very much. But you can figure out like the age of marine samples based on when a diatom evolved into being or when they went extinct. That's pretty common. So thesis writing mode on. Okay, good. Get that thesis done. The junk makes it perfect. Cargo Cult, hello. How are you doing? We are checking out some samples that Pacific Plankton has sent me. and I was looking for Arachnodiscus, and I found it. So here we are, looking at some giant diatom, but we're just looking at a little piece of it. When I say giant diatom, though, keep in mind they're still pretty small, still less than a millimeter in size. Sam, I'm here to answer questions, so don't feel like you're asking too many. As long as I can keep up with them, ask as many as you like. Are the diatoms attacking? They are right now. We've got an entire stub just filled with diatoms, which is the best kind, in my opinion. They're not attacking me. They're attacking the screen. But definitely we see them. All these cool structures are just amazing. These little internal, like, I shapes and X shapes. And that one's kind of a Y shape. Alright, this is Arachnodiscus internal areolae. It's a nice picture. And then we can zoom out and look at the entire wagon wheel here. So as I mentioned, this diatom is Arachnodiscus, like arachnophobia. It's named after spiders because the person who named the genus thought that in the light microscope they looked a bit like a spider web. And I agree with them. They do look like spider webs. Probably because they hadn't invented wagon wheels by that point. Maybe they had, I don't know. Like a Conestoga covered wagon kind of look. That's a gorgeous diatom. If we just hadn't gotten a little bit of crap on the side down here in the corner, we'd have the whole thing. These marine diatoms are so huge. Hopefully everybody got a nice dose of fireworks last night, and hopefully people get it out of their systems. I posted a bunch of cool firework photos that I took. If you're interested in seeing them, I think you can get to them from my Instagram account. The bottom one, not the top one. Some of them are pretty special. I like them a lot. They don't even look like fireworks. They just look like art to me. The live composite mode on my camera is amazing, and it just allows me to capture as much of the fireworks as I want, and then just stop, start, stop whenever I like. Always perfectly exposed. So fireworks are easy and fun to image with a camera, with a real camera, if you know what you're doing. So I really like getting out and then being able to just collect some cool images. Mostly I can watch the fireworks. I don't even have to look at my camera. Except for making decisions about when to turn it on and off a shot. So it's nice. You see this sort of shadow right here, and then this sort of area of the image that's really bright. It's because that's facing the sensor, like as if a flashlight was reflecting off of a surface. And there's actually a shadow behind it that's created the same way. Like you would if you were looking at it with a flashlight. Let's look around and see if we can find another one. That's a nice Actinopticus. See what else we can find in these mysterious samples. Sponge spicule. It's a giant piece of isthmia. Diatom's kind of hanging out. Oh, it's an Arachnodiscus. It's sitting on a pile of junk right there. Would have been a good one if it had been flat, so we could see it all. I think this is a Thalassocyra. Portula. That's a rather large Actinopticus. You can really see the Rumiportula on the inside are curly. These little round things. That's the Rumiportula. They're like coiled. Like a little ear. And there's 3 of them, one for each depression on the valve face. And there's another Arachnodiscus right there, and that one's broken. That's an external view. Get up and look really closely at some of the structure, though. I think we can still do that even though we've got a broken one. This is the outside of those weird-looking X-shaped pores that we were seeing. So you can get a good sense of how it looks from the outside. And it's a little blurry because I have the beam intensity back up too high. There we go. It's crazy that that's the way that pore looks. Can have really fascinating pores. Find one that's not got a view with any junk on it, just like that. That is incredibly intricate. So that's speed 7, speed 6, and speed 5. Or sorry, speed 7 with beam intensity 7, speed 7 with beam intensity 6, and that's speed 8 with beam intensity 5. You can see how the image quality improves each step of those as I did that. And even though it's kind of a long wait, I'm just going to go ahead and collect this at a long beam intensity because I really love how this structure is. That's just amazing to me in there, that the intricate nature of those pores is just absolutely spectacular. Okay, and maybe I'll fix the brightness contrast again. So it doesn't look quite so dark. I think that'll work. Okay. So it'll be a bit of a long exposed. Take a while before it finishes, but the Millennial Falcon. If we donate, will money go to Diatoms? Cargo Cult. If you donate, money will go to student research in my lab, or to buy supplies to continue to run the SEM for people on Twitch. I don't take any of the money, so your money will come in, I will pay taxes on it, and then I will use it to buy materials for the lab for my students or myself for the stream. Shield projector dish, yeah, exactly. It's a little bit like the famous enhance option that they show on TV series. You know, those are complete BS, because if your camera can collect information at a high resolution, why would you collect it at a low resolution and then turn it up to high? You know, they do have some pretty cool programs like Topaz, which will take stuff that's kind of fuzzy and then figure out where it thinks lines should be. It uses artificial intelligence to try to figure out the actual structures of things, and then it will literally enhance the photo and sharpen it at the same time. I don't use that software, but I was thinking about buying it one of these days. My sister sort of raves about it. She just takes pictures in relatively high ISO, and then we'll run it through that to clean up the images. But that's as close as we get to actual enhance. Do geometers ever do stuff with any of your imagery? Replaces very small eyes with very small mouths. You've used it, it's sorcery. I'll take your word for it, Bill. Do geometers ever do stuff with your imagery? I don't think so. I don't think anybody does anything with my imagery other than me. This is very fractal, though, isn't it? Isn't it very kind of fractal? Like, crazy structures repeated. I don't know. This one's a cool one. Run it through several times. Keep running it through until it turns everything into mouths. And there's a lot of math that can be done to figure out the fine structure. I bet there is. You know, one of my grad students had this idea that you know, the diatoms, this one is very shield shaped, right? So if you were trying to, and it's repeated sections over and over. So if you're trying to like optimize the code for that, like to redraw it as a program, you just have to have that arc shape, and then you could just repeat it over and over again, right? So you just think about the DNA that's the organism's using to make that, and then how you could, you know, reduce it down to just a few elements that are repeated over and over again. And that, you know, there may be some value in understanding the mathematical relationships and then trying to look at it mathematically in terms of like what's being kept as the code to design things. And, you know, I wonder if you found the code for these like areolae in the DNA, if it's just a simple thing that gets repeated over and over until it makes that shape. Huh? I thought it was kind of a cool idea, a cool way of looking at diatoms. I don't think people typically look at them that way. There's a bunch of interesting stuff that goes on when diatoms can't make a shape that I think would be really interesting to look at. You know, these aren't all identical. They are, some of them are sort of squares, and some of them are X's, and some of them are Y's. And I think it's because they build it, and then they have to kind of fill it in, right? The future topaz will sequence our DNAs. If you keep running it through, maybe, I don't know. We'll just be all mouths at that point. I like this image, though. I'm gonna denoise it a little bit and then colorize it. It's gonna be gorgeous. And try to make it look like a tie-dye. It'd be very cool. It looks like the structure of a suburb, you know? Like, I don't know if you've looked at like suburbs from an airplane before, how the roads are kind of windy, but then they're in contained little packages. Very similar to that. You found something along the lines of what you're saying. Oh, cool. Someone had a Nature article. Yeah. Oh, this is cool. I'm going to... I don't know any of these people. These people that are talking about it, but I'm going to post it in my Discord so I can find it later. Thank you for that link. It's 2017. It was a good year for diatoms. What if the whole humankind is a big diatom? I mean, it's possible. We're on a giant diatom. Like, you know, the dark matter structure is actually a skeletal composition. Now I feel like we really are in the realm of things you talk about when you get high. Level up and add your own sticker creations for your server. Okay. I'm going to put it into general science. Good place for it. And I'll come back and read it when I get a chance. I'll tell you what I think about it. Thanks for finding that for us, Bit. It's diatoms the whole way down. It could be. You never know. I'm afraid we would never know about it if that were the case, but you know. We need to find a mid-range diatom or a planet-sized diatom. like a Star Trek episode with a giant diatom the size of a planet. We're almost there, and then I can zoom out, take another picture of something else. I like this one though. That's a winner. It's gonna make next year's calendar, I think. I'm gonna start designing them early this year. I don't think I got my calendar together for my SEM lab until January, which is too late if you want to sell calendars, to be honest. I mean, not that I care to sell them, but still. Okay, let's get at it. It was pretty cool. We got that from a piece of junk, like degraded. Oh, too bright. Fractured piece of a diatom, right? And we still could get a cool picture of that structure with that. Even from a little piece, just this little tiny bit was enough. Well, I already feel like we've mission accomplished this thing, this sample, because we got a nice Arachnodiscus, we got a nice crazy close view of some of the pores on them, and there's a bunch of really pretty valves here that don't have a lot of junk on them, which is nice. And each one of these holes, if we zoom in, it's just more holes. Alright, let's go look. Let's see what else we can find in our sample. 10? Oh, there's another Arachnodiscus. That one's broken. Look how gorgeous the middle on this one is, though. One misplaced, the rest of them all perfect. And then there's a big giant crack in it. Let's see if we can find one that doesn't have that giant crack in it. If not, we can always come back. Look at this pile of diatoms in the middle of this sample. That's a lot of diatoms. There's a whole bunch of them clustered together. There's a fragment of one. This thing is so huge. Also fractured. Look how crazy it looks when you zoom out. That's interesting. Okay. There's also some of these other things in here I want to check out. Kind of a lot of them, actually. Just want to sort of finish going through the broad view, and then I'm going to try to zoom in on one of them. Oh, there's a radiolarian. It's another one. Let's look at some of these other things. So, this is a really pretty diatom. We've seen a bunch of these on the stream before. This cool pattern. Now I just need to turn each one of these little guys into a mouth by running it through Topaz, right? It'll be perfect. Okay, let's see. Fibonacci spirals. How much of the world is formed by the corpses of diatoms? A pretty small fraction, Bill. You know, they're silt-sized particles, and they dissolve a lot of times before they reach the bottom of the ocean. So, Uncerkind. Greets from Germany. One man show today. Yeah, all my assistants have the day off. In fact, I think the whole university has the day off, and I just don't pay any attention to holidays. So, Barbados black belly. Neat. Yeah. Diatoms are pretty neat. What goes in between those holes in the voids? So when the organism's living, there's sort of an organic layer, you know, because they're single-celled organisms. It's cytoplasm or protoplasm that kind of covers over the outside of the diatom as a membrane, as part of the cell wall. And what we're really looking at is a silicified cell wall for diatoms, which are a type of algae, but they're single cells. And so this is just the structure of the, you know, the skeleton of the diatom. No, those aren't individual cells. So all of what you're seeing here is just one cell, and those are just little openings in the cell. And they largely use them to exchange nutrients with and communicate with the outside world. So they're exchanging nutrients and waste. So, you know, nutrients come in, waste goes out. They're not like vacuoles. Vacuoles are usually like a bubble of gas. They're more like a pore, yeah, like on your skin, the same way that your skin has pores that allow it to exchange air and you know, let sweat come out, basically. Usually they would have their chloroplasts, and I think for most diatoms their chloroplasts are sort of associated with the areolae somewhat closely, but that's not always the case. So why they have that structure, I really don't know. I think it's partly the ultrastructure is sort of determined by the rigidity or the integrity of the skeleton. So, you know, it's to provide structure for the cell wall to have strength so that they can get buffeted or whatever, bumped by things. In some cases, when they get digested, they don't get completely digested as a result. But, you know, there's basically nothing goes in between those openings. They're openings that are meant for exchange with nutrients. So, and they all have many different kinds. I mean, each diatom has their own sort of pore structures and covers and those things that we usually think of as occlusions that go over the hole. And this is another diatom right here, this like lima bean shaped thing. You can see all the little holes right there. They're not all round. A lot of times in Pacific plankton samples there's a lot of round ones because a lot of the plankton is round. But diatoms have many different shapes, as we'll see. If you stick around for a little bit and I jump over to the mountain lake samples, there's not a lot of round ones in it. I think there may be a few, but most of them are not round in those because they're benthic. The ones that float, that are drifters, they tend to be round. They tend to have this shape, although not always. This is another one. This is Arachnodiscus perifera, and those little bright spots that you see right there and there and there and there, they're actually little mouth-shaped structures, and I feel like, you know, you're going to be really excited when you see that. They look like little mouths. If you were expecting the diatom holes to be replaced by mouths, this one's smiling at us. I'm going to zoom in and you'll see what I mean. This is a labiate process right here. And when it's perfectly in focus, it will look like a little mouth. There we go. And each one of these little bright spots will look like a little mouth. Like a smiley face. And there's another smiley face. And there's another one. And another. So we come out here away from the middle, you'll see that it's got a bunch of these little labiate processes that look like mouths. Especially when I slow it down. Then it'll look like a wall with a bunch of eyes and a mouth. Have fun trying to get to sleep tonight. That's all I'm going to say about that. Alright, 7. Beam intensity. Let's take it to 6. Okay, can they close them? No. They're part of the skeleton, so they're made out of silica. They don't open or close. Do they have neurons? No. They're single-celled organisms. But they're cytoplasm. Yes. A neuron is a type of cell, yes. And they're single-celled, yes. You're all over it, Cargo Cult. You didn't need me help. It needs a mustache. I agree. It does need a mustache, and I feel like we can do something about that. I won't even charge you points for it. I'll just go ahead and put it on there. Let's see. How do I fix it, though? Unlock it. Transform? We need to rotate it. Oh, I feel like that's going very slowly. Let's take it to 0. And then... it's gentlemanly. Let's see. Maybe 25? Or is it minus 25? Oh, I went the wrong way. That's not bad. Just shrink it down a little. That one only has one eye. We need to find one that has... Oh, here, this will do. That one's almost a 0. Let's see. Right there? No, its mustache is in its eyes. Probably we should make it small and make it match its mouth. Oh, now it's moving. I could put it up there like a hairdo. Oh, it would be pretty cool as like a curly hairdo. There we go. Now it's a mustache. Pretty close to the right size. I'll be blamed for faking science. I don't care. People can say whatever they want. The truth is out there. Where's Fox Mulder? That one's got a sideways mouth. This one's the best one, I think. Let's see. When it's done, I'll zoom out a little. You want to believe. When it's done, I'll zoom out a little bit, and I'll stop scrolling. And then we can... I'm just going to call this one Wall of Mouths. Although it's peripher. Let's see if we zoom out. There. Now, let's see if I can come back here and put on the mustache without it moving on me. There we go. How's that? Good? I'm happy with it. Are you happy with it? It's what we're going with. It's got a French curl on this mustache. Okay. Good. Nobody even paid for that one. It's just for free mustache I put on there. Alright. Let's see. Let's see what else we can find. Zoom out. Look how clean that one is. I feel like I should maybe get a picture of it. Just because it doesn't have any trash on it. It's not broken. It's got a little tiny piece of junk right there, and that's it. It's kind of rare to find things in the SEM that don't have any trash on them. That's 7. Brightness. It's 4 p.m. Eastern. I better take a look at those mountain samples. We'll do that next. It's looking good. It's like a pizza. It's perfectly flat. If you could grow giant diatoms, do you think you could break into the shower head? That would be a great shower head right there. I would just design a piece of metal to look like that and go ahead and put it on a shower head and sell it as diatom shower heads. Or sprinklers. You're right, Bit. You know, in my lab, when people look at diatoms enough, then they start to see them in all kinds of things, like hubcaps and, you know, light fixtures and sewer drains and sprinkler heads, if you like, Coke bottles, whatever. And so we used to do a thing, I haven't had any students do it recently, where they'd be out, you know, looking at things, and then they would see something that looks like a diatom, and then they would take a picture of it, you know, and then we would all try to figure out what its genus is. And so, you know, I'm not saying take a picture of your shower head and send it to me on the Discord, and I'll tell you what genus it is, but I think if you did, I could tell you probably which genus it is. Or your hubcaps, or clocks. Sometimes if you just go to a hotel, they have like fancy art up that looks like diatoms. One of my fellow streamers, I'm gonna send her a shout out right there. Oh no, that's me. I want HRM. That's what I want. Hannah Rebecca. First stream I saw her, she was staying at this people's house, and they had a pillow that looked like a diatom. And I was like, your diatom looks like a pillow. Your pillow looks like a diatom. And she was very confused. But now I've got a whole song she sings about me. It's right here. Check that out if you're looking for something fun. And when she streams it, we can just spam our diatom emotes. That's what we do nowadays. So you should check out Hannah. She's a great musician, songwriter. And she wrote a song about me, which I don't think anybody's ever done before, so kind of cool. And it's about diatoms. Speaking of pillows that follow our passions, I ordered a couple for my RV, and they look like giant silica packets. Do you know the silica packets actually are, probably have diatoms in them, Bill? They're probably, they're probably filled with silica gel, which is actually just diatoms. Arachnodiscus perifera. I think it's perifera. Or periferatus. Something like that. nobody pays me to do the genus and species for marine diatoms, so when I get them good, get them close, that's all I need to do. If you want me to identify something better than that, it should be freshwater. That will solve that problem. The freshwater diatoms I'm good at. The marine ones, I don't know. That's how you end up with a species called wall of mouths. Let's see. We're like off on the edge. Let's move back towards the middle. I'm almost certainly gonna come back to these samples because on Wednesday I'll probably want to take another look at them and see what else I can find. I think maybe Pacific Plankton will want to be here, and she can always watch the VOD, but I feel like, you know, she sent me the samples. I should probably at least have her get a chance to watch it live, and, you know, if she wants me to go take pictures of something, I can. So we'll probably come back to these. Let's go look at one of these up close. Can we see into them? I don't know. Maybe not. They kind of have cool pores on them as well. Oh, it's got crusty stuff all over it. Okay, let's go look. I've got some samples from another site that Pacific Plankton sent me. These ones are from a lake, and the lake is very cleverly named Mountain Lake in California, and as you might guess, it's a lake in the mountains. You know, they came up with a good name for it. And I'm always making fun of, don't mind me, California, I'm always making fun of people's names for lakes when they just pick something nearby, like, you know, or they just pick the shape of it, or they pick an adjective that's like really overly simple, like blue lake, fish lake, pretty lake. Mountain Lake fits right in there, though. I hadn't thought of Mountain Lake before, and Mountain Lake that's a perfect example of that. It's a non-round diatom. I think it's Cockanies. Based on this structure right here, these little things on the velvet copula. Catastris Cockanies. That's Actinocyclus right there. That's an Actinocyclus. It has all these little trumpet-shaped, yeah, little mouths around the outside edge of it. I like Actinocyclus. That's a cool one. These are Thalassocyra. I'm pretty good at recognizing marine diatoms. Only trained by the fact that I already know the freshwater ones, but it's not super helpful. There's almost no overlap. So especially for the round ones, I just have to figure them out and then figure out why it belongs to that group. That's a Diatom. Sometimes they're triangle shaped. And this is another piece of plankton in here. Not so much Skeletonema or anything. Oh, there's one of these really long. This is Thalassiothrix. This guy right here. That's all one diatom. It's like 300 microns. See, it starts here. It's still going over there. That's 800 microns. I think we found one that was like 3 millimeters once. Just went on forever. That's about 1.5 millimeters, that one. It's a big diatom. You could see it and pick it up with tweezers, probably. Okay, let's, oh, that's a cool pattern. Let's go look at the mountain lake sample after I made fun of the name. And we can check out some freshwater diatoms. Bloop. I think it's this one. Oh. So here we are. We're no longer in the round diatom realm. This sample's full of Cirrella. That's a lot of Cirrella. These little guys here, those are actually really cool. Those are Terpsino. And that's also a girdle view version of Terpsino right there, I think. And you can see this sample is totally dominated by these Cirrella. This just mostly Cirrella, these leaf-shaped things. And then there's another Cirrella, different species. That one's wiggly. Used to be Camphidiscus, got moved. And this is a giant Cimbella. That's Mexicana. Bet you weren't expecting that. That's the stigma, and it's like star-shaped. It's super cool. If it's really Cimbella mexicana, which I think it is, that also has really cool external, like alphabet-like pores, which we'll take a look at when we're done playing around with some of these other things. This is Terpsino. This is Amphora, Cirrellas, everywhere Cirrellas. That is Calanice amphispana. That's the Calanice is the genus, Amphispana is the species name. And this is the Raphy. A lot of the round ones don't have Raphy, but the non-round ones have them. And Calanice, like Pineal Area, have a bunch of little tiny holes that make up the striae. So if we zoom in, we ought to be able to see those holes. There they are. It's like an open chamber with a bunch of little holes on the inside. Those are the holes on the outside. We're just seeing the internal expression of them. I know this one because, to species, one, I've had it before in samples, and two, it used to be my wife's favorite diatom, so when I see it, I always know which one. It's a cool diatom. I want an external view of that if we can find one. It'd be cool. Terpsino is also a really cool diatom, and these, that's an epithemia. They have really cool structures on the outsides of them as well. Their striae are like, I don't know, intricate. Yeah, you can see that a little bit in here. Looks like it's a bit dissolved. Sorry, I know I've been away from chat for a while. I'll come back in a second. I just want to get us something good to get a picture of. Like an external view of Terpsino, or Let's see what this looks like up close. Oh, these ones are kind of like X-shaped. There they are. Like little calligraphy patterns. That's Cimbella mexicana. As I mentioned, the striae always look like this. They're composed of these really intricate, they look like hieroglyphic characters, basically. So the whole things are that way. And we see these regularly in California. I never realized how common, because we don't see them very frequently here, but a lot of the samples that I've seen from like Dell and Pacific plankton are filled with that diatom. It's really common in California. It's just Cirrella everywhere. It's another internal view of that same diatom. It's Calanies. Thought it might have been an external. That's Mexicana again, I think. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Hello, little Diplanies. These are a type of Diplanies that I see in these other samples that I'm looking at right now from White Sands National Park. So either it's a piece of contamination or just a diatom that both lakes have in common. But it's a cool one. So we'll stop here and take a look at it and get a picture. And I can see what chat's been saying. I've been ignoring you. Let's see. Imagine the battle that yielded all these corpses. Yeah. It was just a battle with gravity, I'm afraid. We need a new form of religion. What do diatoms eat? They are... they're phytoplankton. They eat sunlight. That's it. Carbon dioxide, water, and sunlight, and some micronutrients. So I've never seen any babies at this scale. I hope you all see the video I put in Discord later. I'll check it out. I wish I was a diatom. Well, what does the stigma do? I have no idea, actually. I have no idea what the stigma does, and I don't know. Some of the diatoms have many. Most of them have none. Looks like my phone speaker. Oh, that stigma, yeah, a little bit. You can also take pictures of your phone speaker and send those, and I'll try to identify it to genus. Yeah, the humming in my voice. I'm just here to put people to sleep. That's my main job. And then I've got the visual ASMR on the SCM to round it out. We're just here putting people to sleep and giving them the ASMR they deserve. That is one diatom, and this is just one valve, so it's actually half of a diatom. Not that it's splitting, but that's actually the shape of the outline of the diatom, and we're looking at the inside of it. So there's another one that would fit over top of it that's exactly the same shape as this one. That would be the outside view if we could see it. That's the internal view of one diatom. And when diatoms split, they actually would divide in the direction that we see it. They would add like girdle bands, make themselves a little bit wider, and then form a new half of a valve inside on this one and a new half of a valve inside on this one, and then it's split apart into two diatoms. They would still all look like this though. Their skeleton, which is what we're looking at, is rigid. It's an exoskeleton, basically, an external skeleton. And so the skeleton doesn't divide. It's always rigid. It's always the same shape. So this is half of a diatom. It's a diplonies, and a lot of the diplonies in the marine realm have this sort of peanut shape like this, like a multi-lobe or bilobate shape. The diplonies that are found in the marine realm more typically, I should say, have that shape. This is Mountain Lake. Going to go up a level and make a new folder. Mountain Lake. And this is diplonies of some kind. I don't think that's a... I think it's because they just have elevated salinity in this system. Whatever Mountain Lake is, I think it actually has slightly elevated salinity. And the reason I think that is, this thing is common in marine settings, or it could just be contaminated. And the terpsino, the big thing, the other big thing that's in here that we've been looking, not these guys, those are Cirrellas. This thing is actually more common in like coastal marine settings, these things right here. And let's go take a look at one of these. This is an external view. It looks like the ends are broken out on it, which is crappy because I kind of want a picture of the ends. I don't want a broken one. It's a little heavily, it's pretty heavily dissolved actually, and the ends are all broken out, which suggests maybe it's been transported rather than living in the lake, which is also possible. It could be that they're blown in by the wind. The lake is pretty close to the coast, and it's very possible that some of these are actually blown in. It would be weird to have this many blown in. Especially because they're all over the place in the sample. Here's another one in girdle view of that same thing. This is Pineal Area right there. That is a star anise. That's the Cimbella. That's Cirrella. That's Amphora. I have another sample that has these the same material, I think. That's a girdle, a side view of the terpsino again. So you can see this sort of shape a little bit more clearly here. It's like waves coming towards us a little bit. It's on its side. That's the broken ends. The ends are all broken out of every one of these. That's the one part I kind of wanted to zoom in and take a look at. It's missing. Probably because they're the weakest, most lightly silicified part of the diatom. So if you're wondering why are all the ends busted out, it's because the apical pore fields are on there. Something called an ocellus, or pseudoocellus, and they form in here. This one might actually have its... No, they're all broken out. It's busted out again. And then they have a rim of portula. Right there, that's the rim of portula. It's like a twisted little mouth with a wry grin on it. And they have these huge costi. That's a science word for rib structure. Is this one? The ends are broken off of it. Every one of them that we've seen, the ends are all busted out. But the middle part of this one looks pretty good, actually. They're so heavily silicified. There's the rim of portula part. They're so heavily silicified that basically they're likely to be preserved even if they're transported. That's why I was thinking that it might be a transport artifact, but there's a lot. So it could just be that they were in like high wave area of the water and they're just getting beat up by rolling around. Comminution, basically. Well, they're a little bit larger than most of the other diatoms that are here, so. And these other guys, the Cirrellas that are here, are pretty common in wave-dominated water as well. I think because they can be flipped over many different ways and still can still crawl around. So this structure that's right here, most people don't think of algae as being able to crawl, but diatoms can. The benthic ones in particular have this structure called a raphe, which allows them to crawl around. There you can really see the pores on the valve face, on the striae for this pineal area. That's the raphe structure that it uses to crawl with, and these are these tiny little holes are pores that are covering over costi structure to make striae. The detail's pretty cool. Okay, let's see if I can jump over to the other sample. It's the same material, but it might be arranged on the slide a little bit better than this one, I don't know. There's a lot. Again, a lot of the Cirrella. Let's also take a close look at one of the Cirrellas here in a second. Very likely this is Terpsino musica. It has a sort of a structure in here that when you see it in the light microscope, it looks a bit like a musical note. This diatom again has a raphe. That is kind of an interesting diatom. It's an anomalies. They have this sort of landing strip-like structure that runs along the raphe, and then the rest of the striae are very sparsely spread out across the valve. Let's see. 145, 165. Take a look at this one. Okay. Hey Luke, how's it going? Would the electron ray on one of the microscopes kill living bacteria? Yes. The electron, also the vacuum that they're in probably would kill it. Very visually stimulating. Good. I'm glad you feel that way. Also, thank you for the follow, Art. It reminds me of going hiking through the mountains and staring at all the striations in the geology. Ooh, look at you using geological terms. Have you forgotten about looking up chip transistors and SEM suggestion? I haven't forgotten about it. In fact, I think there's some back here, but nobody sent me any transistors to look at yet. I just got here. What's the name of that organism? I don't know which one you wanted. This is a diatom. We're looking at all diatoms. This one is a nominees. I think it's Sphirophora, but I'm not positive about that. Is that the sample edge? It's the edge of the stub. We got all this stuff from the algae pool. I got all this stuff from my friend Pacific Plankton, who streams on Twitch. And she sent me the material through the mail. They are diatoms, yes. You'd like to see a video of how the samples are prepared. Well, I don't know if I have a video of it, but I could do a stream where I showed it one of these times. You like her Twitch name? Well, you should give her a follow. She does really great stuff. She looked at this stuff in the light microscope while it was living, and then sent it to me so I could put it in the SEM and make her some samples that were mounted. And I did that today. That's why we're looking at it. So, she's a really great streamer. And if you like microscope stuff, there's a whole list of really great microscope streamers right there for you. All of them, at least at some time during their stream, use some microscopes for what they're doing. And I'm probably missing some now. There's probably some more. I saw somebody looking at microchips with a microscope before, occasionally. What if Pacific Plankton just 3D prints all diatoms and puts them into the probe? Well, she's got a pretty small 3D printer, if that's the case. So, congratulations for her technology skills. Yeah, exactly. I don't think it's likely that that's what's going on, but she's gonna have a bunch of people calling her nominees. SP external. Yeah, Sphirophora, I think. Well, we'll take a look at it, because maybe it's not Sphirophora. There's an internal view of epithemia with the costi and a whole bunch of Yep, the ends are broken out in this one too, I think. It's not surprising. There's a cool Cirrella. It's the one that we saw before with the wavy lines on it. This used to be, I think it used to be Smetapleura. When you get in really close, what you'll see is that surface is composed of a whole bunch of little tiny dots, as many diatoms are. Those are these striae right there. That is the raphe for this diatom, which runs along an edge, a keeled edge. These ones have the same thing. This is the valve view, or the face view, and that's the girdle view of the same diatom, and that one's 3/4. So you can see all the sides at once, and that's a girdle band. Ends are broken out. This is wavy one again. You can see the structure of it a lot better right there. Let's zoom in and look at one of these guys. Similarly, the surface of this is also composed with a bunch of holes, which you can see right there pretty easily. See all the little holes on the surface. And then it has these fibula structures and little wings that the raphe is sitting in. There's the raphe. There's a ton of those things in the sample. Pineal area. Again, key characteristic of pineal area is the striae are composed of a bunch of costae with little, sort of a skin over the surface of them. That's filled with a bunch of little holes. And you can see those very clearly here. And they're bilaterally symmetrical. I think that one actually has the ends preserved. And you can see those got little tiny holes down there. The apical pore fields, or the ocelli, are preserved on this one, so not all of them have their ends busted out. This one's got a bunch of junk in it though, which isn't helpful. We're trying to look at pretty structures on the insides. This is star anise right here. Again, it has a raphe, runs down the middle, an axial raphe. And then this structure right here is the staros. It's like a big thickened piece of silica that runs across the valve. For this genus, that's characteristic. There are some other diatoms that have something similar called a fascia. And there's some pseudo star anise-like things that were split off pretty recently, or maybe re-erected recently. Closely related, but imperfectly. The whole end's busted off of that one. The samples are kind of fairly well dissolved for having been collected live. And also, they're dominated by benthic stuff for something that's, I think Pacific Plankton collected these with a plankton net. So, they must have been just washed up from wave energy. Alright, I got like 10 minutes or so left before I'm probably gonna call it a day. And there was something in here I wanted to find. Unfortunately, they're very small. Ooh. What are you? It's an oxyspore for an Oligocyra, I think. It's an oxyspore for something, anyway. Melisara, maybe. That's cool. A colleague of mine asked me if I'd ever seen an oxyspore in the SCM, and I said, I don't think so. But I think that's what that is. So I'm gonna have to send this to her. Let's see, 140 maybe? Get it back into focus. Very cool. I hear the lab door opening.
Dr. Stone.
Hello.
Aha. What is that?
That's a good question.
Huh?
That's
Are
a
we
good
having
question.
a paper?
No.
That's a paper's worth.
No. I believe it's a diatom regenerating.
Degenerating?
Regenerating.
Oh. Had one too many?
If one too many means sex, then yes. I think it's an oxyspore.
Wow.
With the capsule that it came out of still attached.
Cool.
It is kind of cool. What are you doing in the coterminous US?
That's a good question. I asked myself that also. What are you doing?
I live here.
Right here?
I've only ever lived on the coterminous US. Yeah, I think it's Melisira. I think it's just a Melisira in its oxospore.
I saw a Zeiss, $1.2 million SEM,
Did you pick it up?
brand new. It has a laser, and it can cut through, and then take images on the side, and you can put it together. 3D. It's like a CT scanner. Just amazing for micro size things, and it can freeze dry things too. And it has to be frozen
Well,
very quickly.
You should have gotten us two of them. One for you and one for me.
And it has a huge screen, circular screen.
I mean, we could get a bigger screen.
Could you use something like that?
Could I use it?
You know, one that goes, laser, and it has, obviously 3D images and elemental analysis, you name it.
I mean, it sounds nice. You have a couple million you want to just throw around?
The thing is, though, it requires a technician.
I mean, if you're going to get $1 million instrument, you might as well also get a technician.
Yeah. It's a nice image.
I do some good work sometimes. It's like a beach ball coming out of that diatom.
You could, is this flat or does it have an angle, your stub? Or you can't, can you?
I don't want to tilt it.
You don't want to play with it?
No. I'm going to go soon.
So how's your summer been so far?
Good. This is Melisira, I think.
I see your pictures sometimes.
You mean from my camera?
Yeah.
I do take pictures sometimes.
Where is it? Where is the sample from?
This is from Mountain Lake, California. It's a good question. That's Calanese I wanted, but it's broken. There's something in this sample that might be new. It's not that. That just caught me off guard.
What do you see that's new?
I found a Roicosphenia in the light microscope, but I haven't seen it yet. But I was zoomed way out looking at these giant things, so that's probably why. There's a Roicosphenia in here that might be a new. It's another. It looked very weird. Look at that little teeny guy. It's a baby Cirrella. Well, old man.
You say this is a diverse assemblage in the lake?
Yeah.
Or is it, huh?
Yeah. It's got mostly benthic diatoms, so you want to see something cool?
Yeah.
Look at cool striae. It's Cymbella mexicana, and that, I'm not sure what that is. Oh, that's a Placanese. Is it?
What is that?
I think it's a Placanese.
No photo?
Yeah, I think it's a Placanese. Alcasiras. I didn't see any Melisiras except for that oxospore, which is kind of weird. How long are you in town?
Probably be here all of July.
All of July?
Yeah. Depressing, isn't it?
I don't know. I'm going to be here all of July. I'm not depressed by it. These guys here, Terpsino,
What is that?
it's a diatom.
Really?
Yeah, that's a diatom. Terpsino.
What is it called? Trip?
Terpsino. That's Terpsino musica.
Nice name.
Yeah. In girdle view, it looks like it has little musical notes. In the light microscope, in SEM, it doesn't. It doesn't look at all like that in the SEM. That is Anomalies again.
You teaching a full load again this semester?
Yeah, I have 3 classes.
I think last semester you were teaching
5 classes.
5, right? So calm down a little bit for you.
Well, unless somebody retires, I didn't really plan on teaching 5. Sandy retired.
Who's going to teach your classes?
I don't know. Not me. That's all I care about, I guess. Done doing that.
For a graduate student, most likely, I understand. Although she's probably going to teach it again from her house. I don't know.
That's just one class, though. It was all the other ones that I taught of hers.
How many graduate students do you have?
Right now?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Hung is probably going to be graduating in the fall.
Oh,
Or
okay.
in the end of summer. So, technically, 4.
Pretty good.
But it'll be more like 3 next year. I think. Alright.
I was going to look at the pictures that Coccolithophore pictures I haven't seen. What is that?
Alecocera granulata.
Oh, very nice.
These big long spines coming off of it.
Do you have your own catalog
Um,
of your pictures, or do you
no.
just know?
I mean, I have all my pictures. I don't make them into a catalog. Well, I'm gonna have to come back and look for it again later, I guess.
There is a way to transfer it from the light microscope to the SEM. If you see it on the light microscope.
Oh, I'm sure they're here. I just trying to find one in a good view is the challenge.
What are those small round things, small oval things?
These ones?
You know, yeah, like
Well, that's a diatom. It's Stephanodiscus. Minuculus? Something in that group. It's not quite Minuculus, though. That's a Stephanodiscus. These ones?
yeah.
It's, Starosira. Not sure about the species. They're the same as these ones. Here. they're all laying on their sides.
So this is from a core
No,
in the
it's
lake, or
a
just a sample from the
surface
water?
sample.
Someone sent it to you, or you were there?
Somebody sent it to me. It's from a very cleverly named place called Mountain Lake.
Very original.
Yeah. Can you guess? It's a lake in the mountains.
Really? I never would have. Boy, I mean, I came back and all the trees are gone in my neighborhood.
What happened to them? A windstorm?
You don't know about the huge storm that destroyed Farrington Grove?
No.
Seriously not? On June 19th?
No.
Uprooted, like, I don't know, 10% of the trees or more. One of them came from across the street into my house,
Did it hit your house?
just short of it.
No.
It's a huge thing. We had a sign that destroyed that.
It destroyed your sign?
My wife has a sign there saying,
What does the sign say?
Ananda Wellness.
Oh,
Yoga center.
it's a, oh, okay, like a business sign.
But it destroyed that and a couple of other things. Went on one of the, across from where Bassam lives, ex Sandra.
Good news,
She
everyone.
went on a house there and smashed it. A huge amount of damage.
Hmm.
Were you here on that day?
Yeah, I was
The
around.
19th? You didn't notice it?
No.
Not where you live?
I mean, there was a big storm.
It must have hit Farrington Grove really hard. There are at least 3 or 4 huge trees in the Fairbanks Park that disappeared.
There was a big tree in Deming that I saw got, like, part of it got knocked down or ripped down. So,
You didn't suffer anything?
no. I did see a big storm. I was probably taking pictures of lightning during it. But it wasn't particularly windy, at least not in my neighborhood.
I was taking pictures of the fireworks yesterday.
Yeah?
Yeah, some nice photos.
The ones here?
Yeah.
We should have a photo contest. I took some pictures of those fireworks.
I'm not competing with you.
Why not?
I don't know. And who's going to decide which is the better picture?
She would be a good judge.
Yeah, but that's
Because she doesn't care if I win or not. Plus, we wouldn't tell her which one was which. So it would just have to be... She would just have to know which one she liked better, and then...
Were you there?
Yeah, we
The
went.
fireworks?
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah,
Couldn't breathe afterwards.
Yeah, this haze from the...
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't recommend you breathe that stuff.
No. And the fire engine came.
Yeah, I was out of there before that happened.
I
I saw
was-
the fire engine come.
Yeah,
They set something on fire?
I don't know, I left too.
Okay. We always, for the fireworks, we always park, like, not
Out of the
not
region.
quite into your neighborhood, but like, outside of the actual park, because you can't get out of there afterwards.
No, it was crazy.
Yeah.
But it was a nice fireworks show.
Yeah. They do a good job.
They do.
Yeah.
How
No
much do you
doubt.
think that cost?
I have
I
no idea.
estimated like 20,000.
I mean, slightly less than my neighbors apparently spent on fireworks.
Really?
You don't have fireworks in your neighborhood going off 24/7?
Not as bad.
Well, I don't have wind, but I have fireworks going off all the time.
Did you buy some?
No. Well, we had sparklers, but we didn't
Oh.
buy them.
Why would anyone buy fireworks?
It's a good question. Probably because they like blowing things up.
I mean, if the city didn't have such nice a nice display, maybe, but you can't compete with those.
Well,
Those are professional, made in China.
I think maybe you should lay that down as a challenge for people and see if anybody picks it up, because I feel like some of the people in my neighborhood might have tried to pick it up. They had fireworks going off like for 2 days in a row,
Yeah, that's same.
and I imagine it will also happen tonight. Okay.
Do you like to watch the Euro Cup?
I don't
You
watch
into that?
sports very much.
No.
No. Is it any good?
Yeah, well, because I was in Europe, so
When were you in Europe?
just now.
Just now?
Yeah. But please don't tell anybody.
I won't tell anyone. Is everybody wondering where you are?
No,
Oh.
I just.
Well, if the FBI asks me, I'll tell them, but otherwise, no. Oh, what's this? A Eunocia?
What is that?
It's a diatom. It's Eunocia.
Inosha?
Yeah, Eunocia. Usually found in swamps. Dystrophic environments. But there's only one of them, so it doesn't mean anything.
Mountain Lake.
Yeah,
Is that northern?
it's California.
Northern?
Near San Francisco.
Oh, so how many mountain lakes are there in California? Must be a number of them.
That's a good question. With a name that original, it could be any number.
I'm gonna look it up. Mountain Lake.
Well, you could Google it and then tell me how many mountain lakes there are. It will be good to know. With and without the word California. We'll see how many other people come up with that exciting name.
Mountain Lake, Virginia. West Virginia. A lake in Virginia. 4.5 stars.
Oh,
A freshwater.
4.5 stars.
Yeah,
It's been reviewed.
exactly. By Diatoms.
Huh.
Lake located in Gills County. Salt Pond. Smith Mountain Lake. There's also a city of Mountain Lake. Mountain Lake, Presidio, San Francisco. Is that you?
Probably.
Mountain Lake is a living classroom, an experiment in urban ecology that's setting a precedent for the world. Did you know that?
I did not.
One of San Francisco's last surviving natural lakes, and the only natural lake in the entire 80,000 acre Golden State National Recreation.
Yeah. I agree. It's funny when people rate nature. I give that mountain a 3 stars. Would be for
The Matterhorn gets
if
4.5.
the Matterhorn. The Matterhorn gets 4.5.
Everything is.
Is that for real?
Everything is reviewed these days. Everything.
Is that for real? The Matterhorn has 4.5
No, I made
stars.
that up, but
Okay.
I could look it up.
I want to know what
Everything
do
is
we
given a grade.
which mountain would we consider 5 stars? It's important for me to know.
Mount Fuji.
Fuji gets 5, huh?
Nowadays, Mountain Lake is a feast for the senses.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's in a nice area. But there's a mountain lake in Oklahoma, too.
What?
Mountain Lake, Oklahoma.
The-
4 stars.
4 stars would be 5
Yeah.
if there were mountains.
4.1 stars. I'm not joking.
I get that. I don't think that, there's any mountains in Oklahoma. Is there? Arkansas, yes. Oklahoma?
Springer, Oklahoma.
That was a cool companies I found. Okay.
Ooh.
These things,
Yeah.
they're all over the place.
Mountain Lake in Gills County. A famous and mysterious lake that completely dried up years ago is coming back to life. Well, I could do lots of research on mountain lakes in the United States and the world.
It sounds like a
If
plan.
you want me to, I'll be your research assistant.
I can only pay you.
No, free,
Oh, for free.
of course. What, you think I'm after money?
I don't know what you're after.
I don't either. If I knew it, I would be much better off.
Well, you're after knowledge, clearly, about mountain lakes. All the mountain lakes. It's a Stephanodiscus. Nigeri. Okay. Oops. I'm going to take a picture of this one and then I'm going to call it a day.
I'm going to meet Rick here tomorrow. These speakers are slow. Have you seen him?
You mean recently?
No.
I think he comes in twice a week.
No. You know if Josue completed his work?
No, I don't ask questions like that. When I see him, I just say hi. I feel like that's a question between him and his advisor.
Well, that's true. I wouldn't ask your students either. So.
I feel like that's like when you asked people when are they going to graduate. I feel like you're setting yourself up.
But the thing is that he likes to talk, so maybe you get more information if you want.
Well, I might. Okay. I think that's all I'm going to do from the SCM today. As soon as this picture's done, I'll get out of your way.
I just want to look at the photos. My hardest job, the hardest thing I find is to organize everything. as you know probably.
That's why I don't bother doing it.
That goes from everything. My coursework, you name it, organization, my references. What is it? What is it called now? The OneDrive,
Yeah?
which is a disaster because it's never in sync.
I don't know
My
what to
Mac.
tell you about that.
It'd be so useful to have some tech guy in our department. Are you showing the people what you're doing?
Yeah, always. It's important for them to see what I'm doing.
Excellent.
It's alright. It's mostly clean from dirt. Alright. Well, that's good.
It's not easy taking firework pictures. Yesterday was too much haze.